Brian Daboll was named the AP 2022 NFL Coach of the Year. We're going to break it down. Really excited for Coach Daboll. This is a special episode of Nothing But Giants. Let's jump into it. So Coach Brian Daboll, in his first year at the helm of the New York Giants, wins NFL Coach of the Year. And I mean, this could not be any more exciting news considering we are already in the offseason. I know we're all a little excited that the Eagles lost in the Super Bowl, but this is definitely something worth celebrating. Absolutely nobody saw the Giants coming this season after a 4-13 year under Joe Judge last season. Even with this new regime, which people were excited about, nobody thought the playoffs were in reach, let alone an above 500 season and a playoff win. Not to mention, they made, players like Richie James and Isaiah Hodgins, who we had never heard of before this year, household names for Giants fans. Besides the low expectations, I think most Giants fans, even myself who had been optimistic about Daniel Jones early on, were starting to give up a little bit here in year 4. They don't give him the extension. We're thinking this is the end of that era. And all of a sudden, Daboll and Mike Kafka have take Daniel Jones from tail spinning in his career to being a first round 6th overall bust to being a star that the fan base and I think the team really wants to bring back and make the long-term, solution at quarterback. Just doing a fantastic job getting the most out of his talent. This is not that different a roster from last year, and yet we've had a completely different result, and I really think that is just really comes down to coaching, and I'm glad that that was recognized at the national level for Coach Daboll this year. Honestly, a few bad breaks this season, like that missed field goal in week 1 by the Titans, go the other way, and we're looking at a completely different season. We could have missed out on the playoffs, felt like we still took a step forward, but wasn't as successful as maybe it could have been. But honestly, I do not care about that. Over the last decade plus of being a Giants fan, it feels like all the breaks always go against the Giants, and I'm glad they went our way this year. Hopefully it's a sign of more good things to come with this new administration at the helm of this organization, and just really excited about the future and next season now. So Coach Daboll is the 5th Giants coach to win NFL Coach of the Year, and he joins an impressive list of co-winners. Jim Fossil won in 1997. He made the Super Bowl, losing against the Ravens in 2000. Dan Reeves won as the Giants coach in 1993, and he lost a brutal 4 times in the Super Bowl as a coach. He lost in 86, 87, and 89 when he was the head coach of the Denver Broncos, and then again in 1998 with the Falcons, ironically losing to the Denver Broncos, his former team. I mean, losing in 4 Super Bowls is absolutely brutal. Bill Parcells also won Coach of the Year for the Giants in 1986, and he won Super Bowls for the Giants in 86 and again in 1990. And the old-time great coach of the Giants, Ali Sherman, who won NFL Coach of the Year in 1961 and 1962. And again, he did not win any Super Bowls, but also went to a lot of championship games and title games in his era. So this is an impressive list, and if it is any indication of what the future holds, we will at least be having some Super Bowl appearances under the Brian Daboll era, and could not be any more excited about that possibility. When I think about this season, I really come back to that week 1 game against the Titans where we decide to go for 2 when we are down 1 and go for the win. I mean, it just showed, the Dabolls of steel, as they liked to say after that game, that he was here to win. He had faith in his players, and he was going to go for it. This was an incredibly exciting game that really set the tone for the rest of the season, and they never backed down. Going for it on 4th down, even as a few times when I might have disagreed, they were consistent in that approach, and it was completely different than what we had experienced under Joe Judge, Brian McAdoo, and even going back to Pat Shurmur. Speaking of our previous coaches, we mentioned it in the intro, but the Giants were 4-13 last year against with Joe Judge as the coach. I mean, this is an incredible turnaround to then be 9-7-1, making the playoffs and getting a win. I couldn't help but think about, as I was getting ready for this show, that game at the end of last season when Jake Fromm was starting quarterback. It was 2nd and 11 on our own 2-yard line, and we ran that give up play where we just kind of did a little bit of a QB sneak again on 2nd and 11 from our own 2 to avoid getting a safety. I mean, talk about playing scared. It's like I can't even fathom Brian Daboll making that call now. I'm so glad that is a relic of the past, that we're not running those kinds of plays, and just really glad to see that we're on the right track with the right coaches after a tough few attempts post Tom Coughlin era. And even though this is a little bit less X's and O's, you just love the vibe of Brian Daboll. I liked Joe Judge when he first came in, said a lot of the right things that you're excited about as a fan, but never really backed it up on the field. Can't help but love Daboll with his victory cigars after games, chatting it up with the fans. Just a totally different vibe, and it seems like the players bought into it, and he's just the right fit for this organization. And I can't say for certain that, Pat Shurmur and Ben McAdoo and even Joe Judge were not good leaders of men, did not know how to lead, but it really seems like Brian Daboll knows how to rally a group. I mean, these guys are dancing in the locker room, dancing in advance of that divisional round against the Eagles. These guys are psyched. They seem to be really excited to be playing for him. And I really just don't think that can be understated in this NFL. There's so much talent across the board, but who can get the most out of that talent? Who can get these guys to want to play? Who wants to attract players to New York? It really feels like Brian Daboll is that person. And I'm, again, continue to be excited about his future. Going along with knowing how to lead is getting the right people around you. And obviously Mike Kafka and Wink Martindale were phenomenal coordinator hires this season. Both of them really helped this turnaround. Seemingly irreplaceable, and we almost did have to replace them. Mike Kafka got 4 interviews, 4 of the 5 open head coaching jobs, and Wink Martindale interviewed twice for the Colts. I can't remember the last time the Giants assistant coaches were being sought after for head coaching opportunities, let alone getting multiple interviews. Very happy that we recently found out that both coaches will be back for next season. Really excited to see what this unit can do with 2 years with a lot of the same players and developing their system. But again, eventually we're going to lose Kafka to a head coaching job, probably Wink as well, but really happy to have a couple years of stability there. Really shows the great plan that Daboll and Shane came up with when putting together this roster. And that brings us really to the last thing that we wanted to talk about, which was the partnership with Joe Shane. At the end of last year, I think there were some people who were not sure if it was time to get rid of Joe Judge and Gettleman and make a fresh start with a new coach and general manager duo. And couldn't be happier that the Giants decided to go in that direction. It feels like this organization is in lockstep from the front office to the coaching staff, and you really have to have that in the modern NFL to make sure that you are cohesive and moving in the same direction. Seems like they have a really good partnership. Excited to see what they can do with this upcoming draft, which, while not as talented as drafts in the past, seems like an opportunity for them to continue to develop this roster. We have a lot of picks, and I'm excited to see the moves that they make. So that's it. This was just an emergency show to talk about Brian Daboll winning Coach of the Year. Really excited for Coach Dabes. Congratulations to him. Congratulations to the Giants. Really excited about next season. Probably take a little bit of time off on these Giants videos while we focus on basketball and baseball for a little bit. But we'll be back when there is news. Until then, go Giants. Peace.